adversity and heartbreak around our program a little bit, but all we can do is keep going, and we have each other, and I think the players are doing a good job of pushing through and working hard this week. Question?
Coach, on behalf of all of us, just wanted to say we're so sorry for what happened. Our thoughts and prayers are certainly with Coach Clark's family and everyone on part of the UCF Football Game. I know it's been a tough week. At what point can you even try to shift focus? Because obviously it's a big game, the Big 12 opener this week. At what point can you even start thinking about we got to get ready for a football game?
Well, the best thing you can do is keep going, and I'm better when I'm working, but we're still going to get our work done, and we're still going to work hard. I just think the emotions of the last couple of weeks have worn people a little bit. That being said, the players have practiced really well and responded really well. The biggest thing is that heartbreak for Janelle and Braxton and Gianna, and I know Terry and the University of UCF are going to do everything they can for them and financially, which that says a lot about the type of people that work here and that are here. And all of us will be supporting in any way we can. From my standpoint, I just miss my friend. I wasn't around him as long as I've been around some other people, but he just had an energy and a spirit about him. And one of my favorite guys I've ever been around and coached with. So it's just a tough deal, but we got a football game to play too.
Scott, what's been your message to the players? I mean, you talked last week about the transparency involved through all this. How have you guys been there with family and faith and trying to keep everyone together through all this?
Yeah, I think, for those of us with faith, that's what we have to lean on. And we're not without hope because of that and comfort because of that. Shawn had faith, and so our faith means that we know he's in a great place. I think it puts football in perspective. One of my first messages to the team every year is, let's be great at football. Football's what we do. We love football. Football's not life. And I think every time something like this happens, it makes you realize as fanatic as people get about winning and losing a game on Saturdays, it's trivial compared to real things in life. And I think if football's not the most important thing, and your faith is, and your family is, I think it makes you better at football because it keeps it in perspective. And something like this is definitely helps to put things back in perspective.
Coach, we've seen you before here where you're able to rally the team around something, whether that was Hurricane Irma back in 2017 to just moving on later on in the season. All that experience, how do you rally them in a situation like this as difficult as it might be?
Well, I think first of all, I didn't remember the name of the Hurricane was Irma. I would have lost that trivia contest. That's nothing like this. I mean, that's just missing a game. That's not a big deal. This team is starting to develop a real love for each other, and they won't play for each other. I think they feel that way about the coaching staff. And Coach Clark was probably at the top of that list as far as his guys that actually care about him because he cared about them and loved them. And when you have that kind of bond, I think you end up fighting and playing for each other. And I feel like that's what our team did last week. I think they'll do it this week.
Coach, along those same lines, just how did Shawn connect with his players, and what kind of influence and impact do you think his legacy will have on them going forward throughout the season?
Yeah, first of all, it's not just our players. It's every that outpouring of messages and affection for him that I've received speaks to how many people that he's come into contact with and care about him. Kids are smart, and they can tell if somebody actually cares about them and loves them and have their best interests at heart if they're just there to use them as a tool to win football games or move ahead said, Shawn's compassion and passion for his players and love for his players was real, and they knew that. And that's why he fit in so well here. And he was a perfect example of the type of man that I want to remember.
Scott, was there a moment, I know he wasn't here long, but was there a moment where you knew you had the right guy, not just a coach, but the right person to be around your football team, around your staff?
Yeah, when I interviewed him, it was obvious because who Shawn was, he didn't hide it. He was who he was. And everything that was good about him shone through right away when I met him. Obviously, a really good football coach too. But like I said before, that's not as important as other things in life.
You said he's been one of your favorite people to be around. So what are some of those memories you've been able to have with him and create with him during the 9 months you guys worked together?
When you work with somebody as many hours as we work, we start to develop real bonds. We spend a ton of time together. He always had a smile on his face. He and I had some private discussions because we both have been through some really hard things in this industry and this sport. And I think we kind of shared a common sense of how things are and how to approach things because of some difficulties that we've gone through. And he and I talked about those things a lot. He was great for me to bounce ideas off of as somebody else that sat in the head coaching seat. And I just had my time.
You mentioned players kind of rallying together and getting back to work. Have you guys given them the resources to kind of process the feelings and the kind of the suddenness of what happened? I know you've been in the hospital for a few weeks, but it did sound like things turned pretty suddenly. How have players kind of exercised the resources or kind of begun to process this?
Yeah, we have resources. Terry does a good job with that. We have resources available for guys that need it. But everybody kind of has to process it. And, it's harder on the outline than anyone else. And the coaches probably not even more handle to the family. All those things are available for the guys. And like I said, I'm the best when I'm working and I have my mind occupied with other things. And I think football and playing for each other is the other guys that
On that same vein, you've been practicing the last couple days. How has that been to kind of get the mind off of it and to kind of get to football and same thing with the players to kind of get your mind off of this tragedy?
Yeah, exactly. Game planning was therapeutic for me. Hard to concentrate at times. Tuesday practice wasn't our best. I think it's just the emotion of everything drains you a little bit. Today's practice was really good, and you could feel the guys coming together to play for and for each other. And we got a big test on Saturday, and we got to be ready to get ready.
Can you speak to what Coach Baer has been able to do to try to keep the guys together? Obviously, it's really tough on him. He might have been, closest to Coach Clark than anyone, and how he's been filling in. And was there maybe some help you were going to be able to find mid-season to kind of help with the O-line as well?
Yeah, first of all, Alex has done a great job. He's been around Shawn enough that they speak the exact same language and coach the exact same way. Players love him too, so he's going to do a job stepping up for us. We kind of looked for some relief pitchers to come in and help us. You kind of need more than one guy working with the offensive line just for numbers. And Danny Hope ended up coming in. Coach Hope was the head coach at Purdue, worked with Shawn for 10 years. He was over in Cocoa Beach, so it was easy, and he was a good fit since they were such close friends. And I think approached things very similar.
Along those lines, Scott, what was that? You mentioned Danny, but being close to Shawn as well, how much does that maybe help this? There's no way to ease the transition, I guess, what you guys are going through right now. Is bringing in someone maybe he was familiar with him and maybe had the same kind of philosophies. How does that kind of help that transition?
Yeah, it's like, I think that helps a little. The age differential isn't enough, but it feels like Danny's the grandpa and Shawn is the dad and Alex is the son. And there's not enough years in there to make that work, but it kind of feels like they're all coming from the same place.
Do you feel like the players are in a place where they want to play for Shawn in his memory?
For sure. I definitely do. You know, and again, you know, that's just football, but our offensive guys on offensive line in particular spend a lot more time defending some of the defensive guys, but I know it's affected our defense.
Coach, I remember you talked about how you want the team to be player-led. With what you've observed, what have been some of the things you've seen the players do as they process this together?
Yeah, that's starting to take shape in practice and everything. If it's not going well, players are making us run plays over again. Speaking out with the enemy is not good enough. It's not all player driven yet, but it's in a pretty good place. You know, I don't know the conversations that are happening in the locker room, but I'm very confident that the right things are being said.
Scott, I'm sure there's some sort of plan to honor Coach Clark, whether before the game on Saturday or when you guys come back and you get some sort of way of big tribute.
Yeah, you know, it seems so trivial. We're going to put our sticker on our helmet with his initials. And, you know, you just wish there was something more than you can do and you can. I think the best thing we can do is cherish the time that we had with him and try to find out.
Couple, kind of hate to change the subject here, but obviously a big game with Kansas State. I know you've got connections to Coach Kleiman. Could you kind of speak on that? You guys, that was kind of your first coaching gig, right? When you were in Northern Iowa coaching on defense. Just what do you remember about Coach Kleiman from those days and just maybe overall impressions of Kansas State?
It's my second coaching gig was with Coach Kleiman. My first was at Kansas State. I was a graduate assistant there, I think 06. I loved my time in Manhattan. Really good fan base. You know, being from the Midwest, it was a fun place for me to live and fit me well. Left there to go to Northern Iowa and work with Coach Kleiman on the defensive staff. And, you know, just a ton of respect for him. We were friends, still are. He's done a great job with that program. And, you know, they've been really close to winning every game they've played. And I know coming off a bye week, they're going to have smoke coming out of their ears. Our kids know that too, and I think they will.
You're going on the road for the first time this season. It's the Big 12 opener. I mean, how does that kind of galvanize the team when you're all together on the road, you against a hostile environment?
Yeah, to this point, every challenge we put in front of the kids, they've done a pretty good job with it. I mean, this is a whole new challenge. You know, fighting through the emotions of the week, going on the road, playing in front of an opponent's crowd. You know, some new challenges that a lot of the guys, frankly, haven't faced yet. So we're trying to prepare them as well as we can. And it's going to be a tough test, and we got to try to give ourselves a good chance.
K-State started the year in Ireland. I know a few years ago you did that with Nebraska, and there's kind of a theory that there's a little bit of a hangover or difficulty getting back to things when you get back stateside. What was kind of your experience with that? And, you know, is it as difficult from a logistical standpoint as maybe expected?
Yeah, that's probably just coincidence. Now, you put a lot into that game when you go over there, and I think if you win it, it can catapult you in. If you're not careful on losing, it can kind of set you back a little, but temporarily. You know, they had a bye week. They've had a chance to kind of talk about things and resettle things, I'm sure. So we're going to get a good version of that, and we got to get